Hello and welcome, and let me wish you a very happy St. Patrick's Day, Lá Fáilte Pádraig, and thank you for joining us in our celebration this year. St. Patrick's Day is the day in which we celebrate the global Irish community, wherever they may be, and we celebrate with everyone who has a connection to Ireland, whether that connection is one of birth or family, or perhaps indeed from friendship or the experience of having lived in Ireland, or indeed maybe simply from an affection for our country. In most years, of course, we meet online in a social setting and one of joy. This year, of course, of necessity, we must meet online. But we very much look forward to a time when we can meet again in person, and when meetings and gatherings will involve more than unmuting microphones and switching on video. The last year, of course, has been one of the most extraordinary and unprecedented challenges, and no country or community has been spared the consequences of COVID-19. But COVID-19 has manifested itself in myriad different ways, and I am conscious that many of you in the Irish community will not have had the opportunity to travel home and meet loved ones, family and friends in more than a year. The message this year, the overarching message, must be one, though, of hope. Hope that in working together, in our countries working together, and in our communities working together, that we can get past the COVID-19 pandemic and reach the further shore. Hope also that life, in all its colour and its fabric and vitality and intensity, can resume once more, and family and friends can once more gather together. Every vaccination administered, every person protected, brings us one step closer to getting beyond COVID-19. This year, Ireland, as a global island, is again demonstrating its determination to take its place at the centre of the world. On the 1st of January, Ireland, at the United Nations in New York, began its 2-year term as an elected member of the UN Security Council, working to promote international peace and security. Indeed also working for the goal of ensuring a Korean peninsula free from the threat of nuclear proliferation. In this important task, we will bring our historic national commitment to peacekeeping, to disarmament, to human rights and to sustainable development. We will also be working hard to vindicate the extraordinary trust placed in us by the wider UN membership, which elected Ireland to the Council. At home, of course, the major task remains one of, as well as dealing with COVID-19, of protecting the economy from the effects of the departure of the United Kingdom from the European Union, Brexit. Not just protecting our economy, but also, of course, protecting the peace process in Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Agreement. As an open economy built on high technology, innovation, a highly globalised economy, our future and our identity and our place, of course, is within the European Union and indeed in economic terms within the Eurozone. That said, the historic bonds of friendship and culture and history and family with our closest neighbour, the United Kingdom, will endure. The key task ahead, of course, of managing the social and economic recovery and revival of our country is led by the Taoiseach. And therefore, I am delighted to say that we now have a message from our Taoiseach, Micheál Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I would like to wish you and everyone in the Republic of Korea a very happy St. Patrick's Day. A Cárda Gael is a Cárda Galéir. Lá Spéisialta é Lá Fáilte Pádraig, de gach Gael sa bhaile nó thar lear. St. Patrick's Day is a special day. A day when no matter where in the world we are, we celebrate our heritage and culture. So let me begin by wishing you all a happy St. Patrick's Day, to our 70 million strong diaspora and our many friends across the globe. This has been a difficult year for our Irish community abroad. Many of you have lost loved ones. You have been unable to spend time with family and friends. You have missed Christmas, birthdays, weddings, and sadly, even funerals. I want in particular to acknowledge and thank the many Irish who have helped lead the fight against COVID-19, our dedicated health workers at home, but also the many Irish doctors and nurses, research scientists and public health officials around the world. Many of you have put yourselves and your families at risk so that others might be safe. But now, at last, we can look forward to better days. St. Patrick's Day is our day, but that doesn't mean it is only for us. St. Patrick's Day is an open-hearted invitation to a global expression of community. It's a day that gives us a unique opportunity to speak to the world about who we are and how we can contribute to the well-being of humanity. There is, I believe, an ambition that we all now share, that we will learn from what has happened and that our responses will reflect both our interconnectedness and our interdependence. Just as the pandemic has brought out the best in us, we can use the same instincts to shape the future, bringing new meaning and values to our lives and to our role in the world. We are Irish, but we are also global citizens. COVID-19 has reminded us that we need global solutions and international cooperation for global challenges, that no nation, large or small, can meet these challenges on their own. St. Patrick's Day is an opportunity for us, this year especially, to express that sense of solidarity. Ireland is an open country, an outward-facing place. Irish people have always sought to make a contribution wherever they have gone. The same wish to serve inspires us now. We will work with partners around the world to overcome the dreadful pandemic and to support economic and social recovery. In doing so, we will work to make sure that nobody, especially the poorest parts of the world, gets left behind. We've taken up a seat on the UN Security Council for the next 2 years, and we will use that position to work for peace and security throughout the world to the very best of our ability. We will continue to reach out a hand of friendship and hopefully, when we can, to welcome people back to Ireland, including those of you that have been unable to visit in recent times. As Irish people down the ages have done, we will try to make a difference every day, no more so than here on our island. As we approach the centenary of the foundation of our state, building on the achievement of the Good Friday Agreement, we will work through our Shared Island initiative to underpin peace and to advance the cause of reconciliation, shaping a better future for all the people. Our history, our culture, our values, and our experience place us in a position to do great good in the world. There is an Irish saying, "Is sca a chéile a bharan nadini." We live in each other's shadow. It speaks to our sense of interdependence, of community and solidarity. Let that be our message on this special day for the global Irish. And so to conclude, we are thinking of you all today as you celebrate throughout the world. We are looking forward to welcoming you all home soon. Until then, ver bua, benacht, agus go raibh míle maith agaibh go léir.
Thank you, Taoiseach, for that important message of resolve and determination, and indeed of hope and positivity as well. I'm now delighted to introduce the next segment of our celebration, which is a celebration of different and diverse forms of Irish cultural expression, which I very much hope you will enjoy. Thank you.
Kevin came to Korea in 1964 as a Columban missionary priest. I suppose he was one of the thousands of missionaries who left Ireland during that period of 1920 to 1970 and went all over the world. Arriving here with his classmates, he began language studies in Yonsei University. They just opened a language school for foreigners. And he did 2 full years of study and then was assigned out to a country parish in the province of Gangwon-do, northeast of Seoul. There for 2 full more years, just practicing the language, getting to know the people, the culture, to know the church, getting to know the Columbans. He arrived at this conclusion that if I really want to get into life in Korea, I really need to study Korean literature. So in 1968, he returned to Yonsei University, initially did his master's degree, and then went on, as we know, to do a PhD in Korean literature. I think he was the first foreigner to be ever awarded a PhD in Korean literature here in this country. And in fact, at the same time, he began this translation of Korean poetry. And I think through this, he actually fell in love with Korea in a very, very deep way. I suppose he was always very conscious of the Irish literary tradition, like Yeats, Beckett, Shaw, and his own neighbour, Patrick Kavanagh, up there from Monaghan. And Kevin just loved to spend hours translating poetry. Of course, people would ask you, what has that got to do with being a missionary? But one of the things I remember Kevin sharing with me was, or sharing with a group of us, was he just said, if you really want to know the beauty of the world or get a sense of it, he says, read poetry. In fact, he says, if you really want to get to know yourself more deeply, let poetry challenge you and don't be afraid of it. I think he sensed that poetry, literature, was a way to get to know what life is about. In fact, was another way to go to God. And I think that's basically what missionaries are about, discovering with people, the challenge or the invitation of God at any one particular time. But Kevin, I suppose we could really say, called Korea home. And in his own book, My Home, Korea, one of the things he actually said is, Korea is home to me. When I go to Rosslare in Ireland, I'm on my holidays. I arrive with a contented grin. When I get back to Inchin Airport, I'm home. I heave a contented sigh and look forward to the pleasures of living in my sole apartment. Kevin returned to Korea in 1919 for the one last time, and he died here. He is now at home.
Kevin wore his learning and his accomplishments very lightly, despite being a distinguished scholar whose contributions to the cultural links between Ireland and Korea perhaps will only be fully appreciated in years to come. That said, for many of us living here in Seoul who were fortunate enough to know Kevin over the years, he was also just great crack, wonderful raconteur. 1995, for instance, he showed the well-known Korean poet So Chung-ju, who was then in his 80s, around Dublin. They had a couple of pints of Guinness in Jury's Hotel. They made the obligatory pilgrimage out to Joyce's Tower in Sandy Cove. But they were also there for the launch of So's collection of poems, which had been translated into English by Kevin himself and published by Daedalus Press. Now, it was an interesting timing for the event because that very same evening in 1995, the news had come through that Seamus Heaney had been awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature, something that So himself had been nominated for 5 times during his life. Now, the evening itself took a few comic turns and twists, and they're all in Kevin's memoir, which he entitled in his characteristically modest way, simply My Korea. I say all this just as an introduction to one of So's poems, which Kevin himself translated and considered to be, in his own view, the finest modern Korean poem. Now, this poem explores the idea of the oneness of life and death, and I'd like to think also, perhaps, it speaks to our current predicament in this world, a predicament of separation, but also the anticipation of meeting again. So perhaps it offers a little bit of a poetic resource of hope for future St. Patrick's Days. Like the wind leaving the lotus. Sorry, not utterly sorry, just sorry enough for parting. Not utter parting, but parting with the promise of meeting again. In the next life, perhaps. Not like the wind coming to the lotus, but like the wind leaving therefrom. Not like the wind leaving a couple of days ago, but like the wind leaving a couple of seasons back.
Lisa Hannigan and Loa's voices entwine around one another with bewitching harmonies in this spirit-lifting performance from the National Gallery of Ireland of Lisa's song Undertow.
I wanna swim in your current, carry me out up and away. I wanna float on every word you say. Want to be underneath your weather, every cloud and ray of sun. I wanna float in between everyone, in between everyone. I wanna sit down like a stone. You never lost me, you never broke. I wanna be adrift on your radio. Oh, take me under, take me home in the undertow. I wanna be all of a sudden, every wave and undertow. I wanna float everywhere I go, everywhere I go, everywhere I go, everywhere I go. I wanna sit down like a stone. You never lost me, you never broke. I wanna be adrift on your radio. Oh, take me under, take me home. I wanna sit down like a stone. You never lost me, you never broke. I wanna be adrift on your radio. Oh, take me under, take me home. I wanna float down like a stone. I wanna float, never broke. I wanna float your radio. I wanna take me home. Float.
A passionate love letter to North Inner City Dublin, Up the Flats celebrates community, family and values in the unique new voice that has made Gemma Dunleavy a breakout star.
Will you always have me like I do you? You. Will you always have me like I do you? I engraved my name on the pillars of the arch, so that when I left I'd always leave me mark. Everything I am I owe to you. The soundtrack of the summer getting played by the sirens. We fell lost in the middle of the violence. See, I'd be nothing without you. I find comfort when I'm feeling blue, wrapped wrapped in the curves of your avenue. Will you always have me like I do you? Will you always have me? Will you always have me like I do you? I'm talking long days, summer nights, rolling over to the next. Blue lights through my window, help me to come down. Always feel at home with you, could never feel alone with you. Na 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 na. No one understands how it feels to be with you, and I'm never looking back no more. They said we had nothing, but we had it all. Shouting up the flats from the rooftop, shouting up the flats from the rooftop. I engraved your name on the pillars. So will you always have me like I do you? I wanna share your flaws and I wanna share your truths. Remember I was younger and you were shining true. I wanted to feel it, so I had to bury you. See, I was never one to take instruction, I was never one to fall in love. Sometimes I can lack direction, I feel I'm never good enough, but I still find comfort when I'm feeling blue, wrapped in the curves of your avenue. I'm talking long days, summer nights, rolling over to the next. Blue lights through my window, help me to come down. Always feel at home with you, could never feel alone with you. Na 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 na. No one understands how it feels to be with you, and I'm never looking back no more. They said we had nothing, but we had it all. Shouting up the flats from the rooftops. No one understands how it feels to be with you, and I'm never looking back no more. We could have had nothing, but we had it all. Shouting up the flats from the rooftops, shouting up the flats from the rooftops. I engraved your name on the pillars of the earth, pillars of the earth. And every time I hear them call my name, something about it makes me feel away. I feel away. For all the times I said I'd move away, I'm thinking, Gemma, where you going insane? We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. Ooh, we'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops. We'll be shouting up the flats from the rooftops.
I very much hope that you enjoyed our rich and diverse cultural programme. And before the cultural events, we heard some inspiring words from the Taoiseach Micheál Martin about the challenges that we are facing, but also our determination as a country to meet those challenges head on. This brings us to the end of our celebration for St. Patrick's Day this year. But I very much look forward in the weeks and months ahead to working together as a community, to staying in contact, and indeed to hopefully not too long into the future having considerably more in-person meetings. In the meantime, in terms of keeping in touch with events at home in Ireland, let me recommend the use of the ireland.ie website, a resource into which our colleagues at home have devoted really extraordinary energy. So all that remains to me, for me now, is to thank you, to say Gur Míle Maithfidh go léir, and to say, in terms of the embassy, how much we are looking forward to staying in contact and indeed to celebrating St. Patrick's Day next year in person. Thank you.